Hello, hello. Welcome to part 3 of this little behind the scenes series on how I prepared for maternity leave in my business. If you missed it, I have also recorded a part 1 where we talked all about things finances and part 2 where we talked all about things team. So if those are of any interest to you, please go ahead and go back and listen. They really set the stage for everything I'm about to walk through today with content because as a Instagram therapist, content is a huge, huge piece of my job. I'm recording this actually sitting on my pregnancy ball, and I almost got up and switched to my office chair because I do video for this as well on YouTube. But then I realized one, you can't really see what I'm sitting on, and two, it is so fitting for me to be recording my mat leave prep while I am, wiggling my hips around and doing a little birth prep on the ball as well. So today's episode, we're really going to talk about content, which I think for a lot of people who've been building their audience for a long time on Instagram can feel like really the scariest thing to step away from, because it really is one of the few things in your business that only you can do, right? Like you are the face of your Instagram page. And so, it can feel quite hard to step away. I think Instagram has actually told us and said outright that if you are somebody who ghosts for a while and you don't post content, it's not Instagram's intention. They plan to try and fix the algorithm, but they have confirmed that that actually does hurt you with the algorithm. It will hurt how you show up in the future in people's feed, because the way the Instagram algorithm works is they're looking at people's interactions from a previous set amount of time. Instagram did not disclose what that is, but let's say, the past week or 2 weeks or past month. And so if people have not interacted with your content for, let's say, the past 2 weeks because you haven't posted for the last 2 weeks, Instagram's then going to go ahead and deprioritize your content and not show it in people's feed. So it is a very real concern to actually stop and fully step away from Instagram. And that's not what my plan is, even though I do plan to take 3 full months off from my business. So we are going to talk about exactly what that looks like in today's episode. And I think that this can really apply whether or not you are solo or if you have a team that supports you. But really, we're going to talk about how to keep your business running, how to keep your marketing running without burning out or being glued to your phone during any type of leave, whether that is a maternity leave or a vacation. Because again, at the end of the day, you worked really hard for your audience, and I would hate to see you lose that momentum. So for today's episode, we're going to kind of talk about batching content, sharing content spur of the moment, Instagram engagement, and then also I'm using the word content here a little bit more broadly. So I'll also talk about preparing my podcast for maternity leave, email marketing, and launches. And before we dive in, I just want to give a reminder here, as I've done during all these episodes, you do not have to do things my way, right? I've got a bigger team. I serve a lot more clients than you guys. I have a more complex business model than most therapists with all the business coaching and the brand deals and all of that. So, take what fits and leave what doesn't, but the same principles I think apply throughout. And I hope that this is helpful for you. So what I ended up deciding I was going to do for my maternity leave content is really post quite less. So I'm going to post the same amount on both my Sit with Kelly Instagram account, where I talk about my personal life, anxiety therapy, that kind of thing. And also my Business of Therapy Instagram account, where I talk about all things like marketing, business for therapists. And so on each of those posts, or on each of those pages, I plan to have one reel planned per week and one post or carousel graphic planned per week. And then I'm going to do a third post per week, which we'll talk about in a minute here. But those are all the things that I'm trying to pre-plan, right? And so I'm trying to do that 2 weeks prior to my due date, and going 2 weeks after my return from maternity leave. So I'm not jumping straight back into the content hamster wheel. And so I'm taking off all of October, November, and December. And that kind of leaves us with 16 weeks worth of content. So 16 reels that I plan to have pre-planned and approved in advance, and 16 posts pre-planned in advance on both pages, right? So that's sort of the amount of content that we're working with. And the way that I plan to do this is to really rely on my team here with the creation of the content, but still relying on myself with the messaging, right? So what that means is I'm going to go ahead and I do this myself. And I also work hand in hand with, I have a marketing manager on my team who really gets the messaging and all that on Instagram. But we're going to sort of pre-plan what is going to go into the reels. So I would say 99% of the content you're going to see from me over the next 3 months is going to be B-roll reels with some text on top. And so we are going to work together and have an approved plan of what is the text that's going to go on top of this reel and what is the caption that's going to go with it. And then my marketing manager can go ahead and plug that in while I'm out on leave, right? So she can, take old B-roll footage that I have. We also have like a shared iCloud album. So I'm going to like upload any videos that I take of me and baby boy or me around the house or whatever during maternity leave. So she can pull from those and have some like fresh B-roll for content as well. She can pick a trending sound and add it to that video, right? I don't need to be like micromanaging all the little details of what that looks like, but I know like the words that are coming from my mouth that are coming like, on a video with my face are things that I say, there are things I believe in. The caption is on point, like all of that still feels within my control and important and necessary for me to have like some oversight of. So that's sort of like the plan for pre-batching reels. So that way they can still be trendy, they can still be good sounds, like we can still have updated videos. I don't want to be sharing videos of me like 8 months pregnant, 3 months postpartum. Like I don't think that that's the right vibe on Instagram. But it's not going to require really any work on my part besides uploading some of the B-roll videos that I'm taking from my own memories into a shared iCloud album for us. So she has stuff to pull from. In terms of like Instagram carousels and static posts, we're going to follow like a pretty similar format for that, right? So the copy will be written in advance, the caption will be written in advance, and then my team will go ahead and design that, make the graphic all pretty, make it branded, and actually like get it posted while I'm out without my oversight. So that's sort of like the plan there in terms of pre-batching. The other thing that I'm really making sure to pre-batch before I leave is brand partnership content. So we'll talk about like emails and podcasts a little bit later in this episode. But for Instagram, that includes some story sets, it includes some reels, it includes some carousel posts for brands that I have long-term contracts with. And so I am going ahead and like pre-planning that in advance. For reels, we're going to follow a similar format of like using updated video as it gets closer. But everything else will be pre-sent to the brands. We'll have their approval. Any like back and forth on edits I can be a part of now. And then, my team will go ahead and send them like the final draft and get that posted while I am out of office. So that like pre-planning, I think is really helpful to know baseline. I already have enough that my Instagram audience will like remain engaged. I'm able to continue to communicate with people. We have new content coming out. It still feels like me. It's not like an overwhelming amount of content for me to plan and prepare in advance. But it is enough to like sort of keep the ball moving. Now, in addition to that, I also plan to do some Instagram content for fun. And my goal with that is to do like one reel per week that is in the moment, no pressure. It can be funny. It could be about life as a therapist, life as a mom, life on Instagram, tired couples content, whatever. And I'm going to post that as a collab reel between both of my accounts, the Sit with Kelly account and the Business of Therapy account. And that's going to be like my third piece of content for the week. If I don't post anything that week, that's totally okay. If my team wants to pick a random collab reel I've done previously and sort of like repurpose it, that is okay too. But I'm somebody who genuinely enjoys creating content on Instagram. I really enjoy sharing my life in that way. And I don't use like my personal Instagram page at all anymore. So my Sit with Kelly page has really sort of become like my personal way to also connect with friends and family, especially since I haven't taken, new therapy clients for quite some time now. So that purpose of that page has like shifted quite a bit. And so for me, I'm like, I kind of want like space and capacity in this content calendar to share as I want to, right? So if you see stuff that's like, spend the morning with me as, a mom of a 4-week-old or whatever, like that's me just posting because like I genuinely want to post and I'm finding that to be like a fun creative outlet. So I'm kind of like creating room for that, but not pressure for that. And then stories are going to be all like as I desire as well, right? So like I might go send stories for days or weeks at a time. I might post every day. I'm really not sure what that's going to look like. There's going to be absolutely no pressure there. But again, I'm somebody who enjoys social media. It's also how I connect with my friends and family as well. And so I'm sure that you will see lots of pictures of baby, maybe lots of recommendations if I'm struggling with, I don't know, like breastfeeding or nap schedules or whatever. Like I'm going to turn to Instagram for that. And so, yeah, some of those stories will be posted as well, but there is no pressure to sort of like have that pre-planned or done or like following a certain cadence or content calendar or anything like that. And then in terms of Instagram engagement, that's also something like really important to me. It's normally something that I take like very personally in my business because I think that it's really, really important for me to feel connected to my community. One, it's something I really enjoy doing. And two, it's also something that I think like helps me as a business owner know what is going on for my people, right? It helps me to know on the Sit with Kelly side, like what are people resonating with? What do people want more of? What do they have questions about? What sort of brand should I pitch? Like that kind of thing. And on the business of therapy side, it certainly helps me from like a market research perspective know what are therapists struggling with? What kind of questions are they asking? Where are they stuck? What are their like hesitancy points before deciding to join one of my programs that they're wanting to talk through with me in DMs first? All of that, right? So usually I'm very like in control of my DMs, my comments, like all of that. But this is something I'm going to be delegating to team during my maternity leave. And I'm going to do that very transparently. So I'm going to have a post that is pinned on my profile that's like, hey, I'm out on maternity leave. Here's what you can expect. And I'm going to name for people like that it's not going to be me and my DMs most of the time, and that's okay. So you might get a DM response from somebody that's like, hey, this is Miranda here from Kelly's team, or hey, this is Liz here from Kelly's team, or whatever. So they will make sure to like identify themselves. But I think that will just be helpful of like still keeping engagement, still helping people get answers to their questions, but not me needing to like pretend like I'm working when I'm not, or me also feeling like I need to work because people need answers to questions when, somebody else on my team is like perfectly competent and capable of answering those. And so with that, my team might be sharing some stories on my behalf on Business of Therapy with things like client wins and testimonials and stuff as they see that sort of stuff coming through DMs. And so that will be them sort of like taking that responsibility of sharing those wins. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers Instagram. But there's a lot of other ways that I market my business and create content that helps to drive things forward. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those with podcasts, emails, launches, that kind of thing. So the podcast has honestly just been a little bit of a sprint to get everything done. But that's pretty easy to do in advance because it's like evergreen content, right? So I'm not having to respond to a specific trend on Instagram or something like that. I can sort of record these and release them whenever they're ready. So for podcast episodes, it was important to me to keep the podcast coming out on a weekly basis, even while I was out on leave. Number one, I have a lot of sponsors for the podcast. It's very lucrative for me. And so I wanted to keep that maintained. Number two, I think that it's really helpful, especially knowing that I'm going to be taking a backseat with social media, meaning that I'm not going to be posting as frequently. I'm not going to be sharing the stories as frequently, that I have like another way to nurture my audience, right? And so if you listen to the podcast and you hear me in your earphones for 20, 30, 45 minutes every Wednesday, that is super helpful, right? Like that's something I can do in advance to continue to support you, to help you to get better results, to continue to build our relationship, and to keep my business moving forward, even while I'm out on leave. And so for me, it felt very non negotiable that I would release podcast episodes as usual during my maternity leave. And so I made a plan for that, right? I've pre recorded, or I'm in the process of pre recording, all podcast episodes for when I go out. So I'm going to have them all done for October, November, December, and January, even though I'm returning to work in January. I don't want to come back and be like, shoot, I have to record and plan and scripts and all this, like 4 podcasts the first day I'm back. So I'm doing January as well to just give myself a little bit of a break when I return. And yeah, those will be continue to be released as usual. And then my podcast ads are pre-recorded as well. So that way those are all like set with sponsors and we are good to go. And the podcast is, monetized and moving forward and all of that. So the podcast has been pretty straightforward, I would say, in terms of maternity leave prep. It's just been, a lot of effort because that's, 16, 18 episodes that I'm having to pre-plan and pre-batch as part of, getting this prepped and ready to go. Okay, and then last thing is emails. So I send out emails to my newsletter list every single Tuesday. Those are really like helpful emails where we talk about like marketing, we talk about Instagram, we talk about mindset shifts. Occasionally there's sponsored newsletters in there, that kind of thing. And we are pre-planning all of those newsletters for October, November, December, January. I think you get the theme on timeline that I'm planning here. And those are going to be batched in advance, right? So the copy's written, it's done. I've like given it stamp of approval. I feel super good about it. And then my team can go ahead and do the back end of like scheduling it out, sending it out, making sure that it's in the calendar, like making sure everyone received it correctly, all that kind of thing. Um, so that's been helpful as well. I think in general, you'll see the theme is like I can go ahead and do the messaging, do the marketing, and make sure that it's really like reflective of what I need. And then my team can go ahead and do the little details to make sure that it gets distributed, it gets formatted correctly, all of that. And so that's sort of been like this balance between I want still like my marketing and my business to be me when I'm out on leave. And I can rely on other people to help support me with like bringing that across the finish line. I am doing a launch for the first time ever that I've like not been present for it. So we will see how that goes. But I always do like a big Black Friday sale every year. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know that, stay tuned. It's a really amazing sale. But we have pre-planned all of the email content for that and the social content that will go with it. And then we'll see if I end up deciding to want to share in stories or not. But team is going to do all the back end stuff of like making sure the sales page is right, making sure the discount codes are right, making sure the bonuses are right, making sure the timer and the deadline funnel is right on things, making sure the emails go out and are segmented correctly and all of that. They're kind of taking it across the finish line there. And then lastly is my inbox. So I'll have an out of office on in terms of like my own work emails. And then somebody from my team will be monitoring those. They'll be answering those as things come in, but responses will probably be a little bit delayed. And they will tell you that it is them, right? My goal here with this entire maternity leave is to be very transparent that like I am taking this time because I think that a lot of women feel a lot of guilt around like taking time off and prioritizing themselves and their family, especially as business owners, where we don't get like an employer who's saying, hey, you're getting 6 weeks leave or 2 months leave or 4 months leave or whatever. It's up to us to say, no, this is what I'm going to take. So I just want to be very transparent and say, like, I am taking this time. I'm going to be offline. I'm not going to be answering things. I'm not going to be checking in. But my team is super competent. I've worked with them, a long time. I've trained them and they will be answering. And so you will get to meet some of them while I am out. And I hope that you have a lovely experience. Okay, so let's wrap up by talking about sort of like the lessons learned that I hope that you can take from this Mat Leave Prep series and apply to your business. First is that I think when you are planning to go out for an extended period of time, whether that is a very long vacation, a maternity leave, a sabbatical, whatever, reduced hours in the summer so you can spend more time with your kids, it is going to require intentional planning on your part, especially if you want your business to keep moving forward. So pre-plan things in advance, make a roadmap for that. Make sure that you have enough runway, build it into your day so that you're not like cramming at the end as you get across the finish line. And you probably need to invest in some sort of team in order to get you through those seasons, right? I have a lot of people on my team, as you've heard in the team episode there, but you may not need that much support, right? Like you might be just fine with a virtual assistant for 5 or 10 hours per week who could really help you with keeping things moving, both like while you're out and also when you're here, right? Like there are some tasks that do not make any sense for a therapist to do once you are established in private practice. For instance, like posting Canva graphics, designing Canva graphics, I don't think is very helpful. It's time consuming, it's slow, and it's not needing to be done by you. So that's something that you could certainly hire somebody for as a therapist. You can still write the content, you know your clients well, you know what you want to say, but let somebody else do that piece of like designing, making it pretty, making it brand colors, posting it on Instagram for you, putting it in a content calendar. Like that can be so, so, so helpful and really take stuff off of your plate. Once you feel like you have a good working relationship with your team, I do think it's important to trust them to adapt and to give them like freedom to be flexible. Right. So, like I said, my team is going to pick their own trending sounds. Maybe they'll adapt, a tiny bit of what I say to match like a trend that's happening. But it's still my ideas, it's still my voice that is already approved. Um, Another thing that I think is important to sort of hold in mind is that not every single season in your business needs to be a season of growth. It is okay to have some seasons of sustainability or even some seasons of like increased work life balance or shifting in priorities. And that is okay, right? So, maternity leave is not going to be a season of growth for me. It is going to be a season of sustaining the business with my team. And even I'm okay with like shrinking the business if that's what happens. So, I have much lower goals on content output than usual when I'm out of office, and that is okay. We kind of talked about this already, but you don't have to pretend that things are business as usual. It is okay to say, I am on maternity leave, and to like let other people step in and serve your clients, answer questions, provide support, answer Instagram DMs and messages, direct people to a scheduling link, that kind of thing. And with the right prep, content does not have to rely on you being available at all times, right? That is true during maternity leave. And honestly, it is true year round. So whether or not you are preparing for a baby, a vacation, reduced hours in the summer, or just a season of less, I hope that this like encourages you to trust your systems, to start building out systems, to start planning some content in advance, and to really give yourself enough room and wiggle room in your business that you are able to take breaks as needed, because that is what's going to keep you in this for the long haul. Okay, if you have listened to all three parts of this series, I so appreciate you sticking in with me. I hope that this was really helpful. I've gotten so many questions on maternity leave, and so it was really fun for me to put this together and sort of share behind the scenes with you. Feel free to shoot me a DM at Business of Therapy and tell me your biggest takeaway, or what you found most helpful, or what you're taking into your own maternity leave if you're pregnant. I would absolutely love to hear it. And I will see you all here next week.